Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Tom Molloy. This is Bill Straus. Uh, two heavy hitters in something. We have to figure that out. But we're going to wait until we get some more people. We had two other distributors who had to cancel, but they can answer any distribution question that you have and give you advice. I've known this gentleman for 20 years, and I just met him, but we have one thing in
24 hours.
common. He loves the Chicago Bears, and I live in Chicago, and so we are instant buddies.
Where are you from? You live in Chicago? You're from Chicago?
Born in Chicago, raised in Brooklyn.
And I told him my favorite steak place is in Brooklyn, Peter Luger's. So we're gonna wait a couple of minutes. While we're sitting here, is there anything that anyone wants to say, ask, know about? What?
Great panels this morning.
We try, and I invite all of you. We're doing the same thing at Sundance, third week in January, live, all over the world. And we're going to do the same thing at Cannes. The difference at Cannes is you bring your pajamas. Okay? No. Yeah, because we have a pajama party, and this past May we had 350 people in their PJs in the film industry come to our party.
Can I just tell a quick story that Corky just said to me? You got to come to my pajama party one of these years. Like, we had all these people, and I'm giving them the whole, I'm so sorry, I get so busy. And in the midst of doing this, I go, wait a minute, I was at your pajama party last year. And they go, oh, shit, yeah, you're right.
We are, and if you go to Sundance, Jennifer's over there, and she runs an organization called Artists United. And you all should join because this is the only organization I know that for free you could sign up, and whatever your needs are, they'll find a mentor or someone to answer your question. It's connecting people to people. So it's Artists United, Jennifer Wallace, she's right there, and you all should talk to her because it's a great organization, because whatever area in the art you are in, she can hook you up. You join them, it's free. And it doesn't matter whether you're a painter, whether you draw, whether you're a poet, whether you're any area in the arts, they will welcome you. And if you happen to contact them and say, I have a question, they're the best organization to say, I want you to contact that person. So I encourage all of you to find out how to join and join. There's no risk in joining, and it's a great resource. I want to also, and we're going to do a joint party and panels at Sundance. I don't know if it's a Monday or a Tuesday, but all right. So I want to thank the sponsors again. It's very important. All right. So I want to thank Front Row Insurance. They're one of our sponsors. Front Row Insurance. They're a Canadian insurance company, and they are one of our sponsors. And she told me that in the United States, if we want to get insurance for a movie and we go through the Canadian company to get the insurance for us from the United States, that's much cheaper. So I will see what happens, right? Okay. And we have Eggplant Pictures and Sound. We have Stockman, Cass Ryan and Company, and they're a great accounting firm. We have Duffer and Gate Studios, Front Row Insurance, as I said, Backlot Film Studios, and Belize Film Commission. And the Belize film commissioner, will be on our international panel. It's a new friend that we have, and I'm very interested in knowing about what's going on in Belize. So we're going to talk about sales and distribution. I want to start with Bill. Tell them a little about you and what you've done and what you do, and filmmaker, distributor, maybe going back to filmmaking. But what's the state of the economy in the distribution area?
Okay. Start with my bio, try to be brief. Started as a film student at USC. Was a PA on the movie Boys in the Hood, which was an amazing experience. I was a writer for a bit, eventually went over to the other side, and became, from the experiences of taking notes as a writer, and decided I wanted to try to be an executive. Ended up interning at New Line Cinema, working my way up through New Line Cinema, and I was an executive there during the time of Rush Hour, Boogie Nights, some Lord of the Rings, so we made some great films while I was there.
Were you there with Hoop Dreams?
Hoop Dreams, no.
The documentary.
Yeah, I know the documentary. Yeah, no, I wasn't there. I think that was just before I went over there, but I'm not sure. Was there for a few years, then started working as a producer with a company called Circle of Confusion, which is known for The Matrix and The Walking Dead. During that period, I first started going to Sundance, and I had never really had any association with independent film, and really it was just sort of an incredible experience for me. I felt like it was much more enlightened than the studio system. It was something very liberating about it, and I was just sort of exhilarated by it. And I ended up having a couple movies a couple years in a row at Sundance in 2007 and 2008, and then one at Tribeca in 2010, which was Dennis Farina.
Yeah.
And during that process, I sort of was like, it was a little bit like when I was a writer and I switched to the business side, where like everybody kept going, "What's the sales agent saying? What's the sales agent doing?" And and so I was a little bit like, why is that guy so important? And I had this crazy idea that I wanted to move back to New York, and I had this crazy idea that it was a way to make New York work, and it just sort of sat in my head for a few years, and then I had a kid, and like I really wanted to move back, and I just did it. I just went for it. I thought there was a paucity of people doing domestic sales, which is very different than international sales, which we can get into, and I just kind of went for it, went back to Brooklyn, and started a very boutique, very different kind of sales agency that's all about sort of client attentiveness, only taking on a few clients at once, and trying to do stuff that's good with integrity. And I've been selling films since about 2012. I've sold films out of Sundance, South by Southwest, here, Tribeca, Berlin, and I love the littler festivals. Like I love Hot Docs. I come to Hot Docs almost every year. I love Fantasia. I love Fantastic Fest, so I really like a lot of those festivals, and I've been doing this for about 6-7 years now. And to speak to what your question finally, I think the business has kind of gone. When I first got into it, it was really good, but we're in a real down period where we're rediscovering. I think we need to sort of rediscover another revenue stream right now because everything's sort of, we'll speak, I want to hear what you guys have to say about this too, but I think that the SVOD window, the streaming window is a real curiosity right now, and it's rapidly changing, and I think a lot of people are trying to figure it out, and it's consequently affected MG's advances and what filmmakers can expect, at least on the domestic side.
Tom, I met you first as an actor.
Yeah.
Then I met you then as a producer.
Yeah.
And now I know you as a distributor and sales agent. Tell a little about your company and what you do. And
Yes, hello everybody. Tom Molloy. I started as an actor back in '98. I made was an actor in a film shot in Brooklyn called Gravesend. That we would go up to the street corner, there'd be a gang of thugs, and we'd be like, "You guys want to shoot a fight scene?" They'd be like, "Yeah, all right." Yeah, and that'd be fights. But we got Oliver Stone to put his name on it. It was in theaters, and I was like the second biggest role in the movie. And I said, "Wow, I'm gonna be a household name." And when that didn't happen, I figured I could either murder a bunch of people or I could learn other aspects of the business. And so what I did is, I've done every aspect of it. As a writer, I'm in the Writers Guild 20 plus years. I've written 31 screenplays, options sold or made into movies, 24 of those screenplays. I just produced my 15th movie. I wrote the book Bankroll, which I don't know if anybody here has read Bankroll. I get some nods, yes. That was like the book on film financing, independent film financing. Now it's all online at Filmmaking Stuff HQ. I'm sure you get emails from Jason Brubaker. I don't do the emails, so if you get too many, that's not me. I just make the content for that stuff. And, the joke is I still do the we have films in development. The joke is I still even do the acting. The people cast me and stuff. So that's always still here. But as Corky said, I have Glass House. 3.5 years ago, a guy named Brian Glass and that's where the Glass House comes from, started a sales and distribution company because I'd been going to markets. This will be my 14th year at AFM, 7th year at Cannes. In a row, by the way. I think that if I added Cannes, it'd be more. So, and 4th year in a row at AFM. But
This is not AFM.
This is not AFM. Yes, yeah.
Okay.
But TIFF, well, let me say this. We took it Glass House because his name was Brian Glass, but it became You Can See Everything That's Going On, the double entendre. And in 3.5 years, he was just financing it with me, and now we have 7 people. We just hired a head of TV. We do 9 markets a year now. And, we're growing and just pushing it from the fact of, like what Bill said, tailoring to the filmmaker, not cookie cuttering, not putting things on the shelf, and saying, well, we all make movies too. And so we do, just so you know, foreign sales mostly. Like we started trying to do U.S., but we only do foreign. Like we've partnered with.
You only do foreign?
Yeah, we only do foreign. We partnered with Comedy Dynamics on a bunch of movies. We have 2 in development with XYZ Films, so they do U.S., we do international. We have Tri-Coast we've used. We just one of our biggest movies is IFC Sundance in the States, and then we're doing the international called Driver X. So we always do partnerships, and I'll tell you that partnerships with a changing atmosphere, and I know that's a future question I'm sure you're going to ask with a changing environment, partnerships is the one way to be stronger, I guess, is the smartest way. Yeah.
Okay. So just parenthetically, I know Tri-Coast because of Daisy Hamilton and Straight Hamilton. But I throw out this question. I don't care who begins the answer. What is the difference when you say I'm a sales agent or I'm a distributor, or do they mean the same thing?
I want to hear your answer.
Okay. One is 2 words and the other is 1 word. No. Sales agent is, okay, so distribution. We still do distribution a little bit sometimes on the smaller movies, which means we're going directly to the platforms or we're doing theatrical releases ourselves. Like we've done small theatricals when the company was growing. And so that will actually go to the platform, collect the money from the platform. Sales agent is what we've more shifted and morphed into, which is selling to buyers. So like we have a suite at the Hyatt. If anybody's been up there, 1241 is our suite. And so buyers come in. So we have buyer meetings left and right. Just this morning, somebody from Germany comes in. We say, what are you guys looking for? This guy said genre, horror. So what we do is we just show our trailers and we try to do deals. So then they take it, they pay us for that movie or there's even rev share deals nowadays, but they'll give us a fee for that movie. And then we, take that and give that back to the filmmaker, split it with the filmmaker. So that's a sales agent. It's just, because we have access to the buyers and all the markets that that a filmmaker normally wouldn't have. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what I would say as well. I would add that there's a couple different types of buyers. I generally like to go to all rights distributors. I'll take the domestic rights to a film. A lot of people call what I do producers rep as well. And I'll do the different. Well, we can talk about the difference between international and foreign later. But I'll take the exclusive rights to sell the film to a U.S. buyer, and they'll then handle all the rights, and they'll go. And this would be places like Magnolia, IFC, Oscilloscope, and so on. I have a list of 100 of them, or probably there's more and more every year. And I'll give it to them, and then they'll go and in turn sell it to the different platforms and handle the windowing. At times I'll go to Netflix, Amazon, Hulu directly, but I often like to wait. Because if you take that option away from an all rights distributor, it can really be a problem if those places don't buy it. So that's always sort of a little bit of a conundrum and a quagmire based on the film that you determine based on the film.
Yeah. Wait. I'll give her a mic.
What's the benefit to the filmmaker of going directly distribution versus going sales agent? And I say this as a relatively new filmmaker.
That's okay. I mean, I think it's relationships. I've spent the first couple years running around doing meetings and meeting these 100 buyers. I mean, I have relationships with all of these people. And so if I call them, they're going to know me, and it's going to give your film a bit of a leg up. Now, and the other would also be just the negotiation. Like, you want someone in between you and a buyer once you get to the place when the film is sold. Like, because I can play that guy off the other guy and say, well, he gave me this one, and movies go up and up. So it's better, though. I mean, they'll come directly to you if you, like, once festival announcements come out. I want to hear your thoughts, too. Once festival announcements come out, they're going to go directly to you. And this is a mistake that a lot of new filmmakers make, is they'll send the film, like Oscilloscope will reach out to you immediately the day it's announced, and they'll say, hey, send me a link. And then, like, they sent the link, and one of the buyers is taken off the table because they directly have it. And they have little, like, internet, like, email-friendly groups, and they share the link. And that sort of takes away your ability to approach all the buyers at once and create the best sort of sales atmosphere for it. So there's probably other things I could think of that make it an advantage. It also gives you a level of, it makes the film look better to have a good sales agent on board.
It does. It gives us that seal of approval, but as well, exactly what he was saying is the relationships. I mean, like I said, 14th year in a row at AFM, it's like, I closed the second party last night. We closed the bar, and it's like, it's not just me doing shots. You know what I mean? Even though it was still doing shots with buyers and relationships and It's like, we'll go to 4 a.m, and at 3:45, it's like, I'm a buyer from Spain. I'm like, oh yeah, stop by the booth tomorrow. And and so it's those relationships. But at the same time, I don't think a filmmaker could go around and sell all territory. If they were trying to sell international territories, it'd be very tough.
Impossible.
Yeah. Impossible is more like it. It'd be very tough. And so you'd want a sales agent to do that.
What Tom, I'll get you your question in a second. What Tom said is so true. It's a relationship-driven business. Whether you're a distributor, whether you're a producer, whether you're an actor, whether you're a production company, it's a relationship situation. I personally think the best bonding tool for me in the business is bringing good cigars. Because if you get the other person to smoke a cigar with you, you have an hour. A drink, you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But a good cigar, if they smoke it with you, I travel with good, Cuban cigars. What?
Start smoking.
No. I look. I met Matthew McConaughey that way. I'm in California. I'm at the Sunset Marquee. I'm smoking a cigar. He comes up to me and says, "Do you have another one?" I said, "Sure." I got an hour.
Well, you know that we're like our Glass House. My team is David is my head of acquisitions, Rob head of worldwide sales, and Michelle. They're usually the 4 of us are there. It doesn't usually all 7 of us at one spot, but we try to have this reputation as the fun people. And I joke that one buyer from Poland, one point, we're doing drinks with him somewhere, and he goes, "Do you guys ever work?" In the joke. I loved it. But that was like the joke is like, I don't mind having that reputation that we're like the work hard, play hard people. And if we're going out, I'm not going to pitch you at 3 a.m. at the karaoke bar in Cannes, but I am going to like have the greatest time. Be like, come by tomorrow and let's actually talk business. And always try to follow up on the business.
I think whether it's cigars or like cigars is a metaphor for a commonality that's not necessarily the business. For me, it was like when I was producing, I had a pickup basketball game and a lot of people came and we'd play basketball and it just made the bond that much stronger. And now I have like a fantasy football league where I'm going after this to watch games with a bunch of buyers. And so like whether it's cigar, whatever it is, I don't know, I don't want to be sexist, so I don't know exactly what it is, what applies if you're a woman, but whatever that is, it's good to have that kind of bond. What's that? Manicures. Okay, there you go. But cigars is a good one though if you're a cigar smoker.
This gentleman has got a question. Sorry. Okay.
To make my film attractive to the investors, I was thinking of carving out Vimeo, but leaving everything else on the table, so I can get some money streaming in right away for these guys. And that's just like a little sort of micro-ish platform. Is that going to impact what you guys do?
They don't even buy it. Yeah.
Video like video.
Vimeo.
No, Vimeo.
Vimeo.
Yeah.
Vimeo.
Vimeo.
Oh, you're talking like a pay-per-view type thing.
Yeah. So if I
Speaking
carve
into nothing,
that out,
Brandon.
is that
It
going
might-
to
might-
deal that you guys could get?
Vimeo doesn't really
I'd
pay.
recommend
That's
it. They don't
tough.
pay,
One.
yeah.
And once your film's released, your film is
I
released.
wouldn't recommend
okay.
it. Yeah.
Let me tell you, on the VOD market, which is there's no DVD market. It's been replaced to some extent in the video on demand. Someone told me this, and it's true. If your title to your movie is below a C, you lose 50% of your viewers. Because when you're scrolling, it's numbers A, B, C. If you get, most of the people find something to watch before they get to D. So I thought that was BS.
Yeah, that's called alpha stacking, by the way, is naming your movie like...
That can't be true. I came
American
home in
something.
Chicago. 25 of my friends, by the way, that's all I have, but 25 of my friends, I said, go home. You don't have a specific movie. Just stop where you will see this movie as you scroll down from numbers A, B, C. And 75% stop before D. I mean, it's amazing. So I have a client that did a movie, The Age of the Dragon. Quickly, he changed it to Age of the Dragon. He took out the D.
Well, let me say this. Look, I had a film that came out last year that wasn't through us. It was a film I produced called Screamers, and it had a hashtag in front of it. And that helped on some platforms because that was actually before A.
Right.
And then some actually translated to the word hashtag Screamers with an H. But we were on iTunes, seat placement, and foldering, premium foldering it's called, in iTunes. So like if you go into horror on iTunes, we were actually #1 for 6 days. Doesn't matter what your name is. Your name could be Zed. And we were #1, and then we were the top 5. And I mean, we're talking the other movies like Get Out and all these other movies. And we were top 5 for 40 days. And so that's money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's placement, and it doesn't matter what the name is. So the alpha stacking, yes, in demand, I get it. But we're going to have 1,000 movies that are like American Badass and whatever they're going to name it to be an A or B in the title.
Okay,
it's us.
the question that you sort of began talking about, and I want to get into, especially to you, the pre-sales. Yeah. Have the values of what you can get in the foreign market been driven substantially down, and if so, why?
Well, it used to be you'd make, as the old economy, you'd make more off of less. You remember, we could make 1-2 independent films a year and you were rolling. It was great. And then that changed. Now you make less off of more. You got to spread it out and make little bumps everywhere, But the value of pre-sales, yes, it's completely different. Once the DVD market fell out, that changed a lot of things, and pre-sales. There's a famous story of the AFM. Anybody ever hear Rennie Harlan, the director from Cliffhanger? He tells this story of going around AFM in the 80s when it was amazing, and he had his Chuck Norris movie poster and got $1 million from Japan and $2 million from Germany and raised $8 million. Okay, he didn't even have Chuck Norris. All he did was he designed a poster with Chuck Norris on it. Thank God he actually got Chuck to agree to do the movie. movie and they made it, and that made his entire career. But you could never do that these days because you probably end up in jail or whatever. But the bottom line is, there's certain stars that have value. Like we just attached to the one movie we're doing, XYZ Films, like Mina Suvari from American Pie and American Hustle, the one with Kevin Spacey, and what was that called? American Beauty. The Girl on the Roses in American Beauty. And that's not enough for pre-sales. It's like you need more like, Bruce Willis, somebody, that. And
Still, if the value's gone down, what you can get for a pre-sale.
Well, yeah, the values have gone down because it's like the market's not there supporting it. You know what I mean? We're used to make. I mean, I know guys that made careers in the '80s. You know them. That made C-list Christian Slater movies for 10 years and made them for 4 and sold them for 8. You know what I mean? It's like you can't do that these days. You make it for 4 and sell for 1. It's very tough.
Yeah.
Smart is what.
So I have a movie here, and we have no distribution, but that was by choice. The filmmaker said, "Look, we've got Marissa Tomei, Liv Schreiber, and Peter Skarsgård. It's going to premiere here worldwide on Tuesday night at 6:00 at the Ryerson Theater." And I believe that my client struggled with that because she had a lot of distributors that said to her, "We want to talk to you." And so you sort of roll the dice, but if you believe that your budget's right and you've got the right talent and the right story, as you said, don't pre-sell it necessarily.
You got a TIFF premiere. I mean, like you're in good shape because you're going to get multiple distributors in a fantastic audience, a packed audience. But that's rare. But you can't bet. You can't make that the game plan. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like that's pretty great. But that's not always going to happen. Rarely going to happen.
And then I'll tell you another story. I had a movie at Sundance called Design. It was the darkest movie you've ever seen. It's a movie where if you saw it, you wanted to kill yourself. It was just that dark of a movie. And my client had no rights to any of the music in the business because he felt that he's not showing it for public, and he doesn't need. But what happened is the distributors who were brave enough to want to take this dark movie said, "We're not going to take it. You have no right to the music until you get us the rights to the music. We don't want to even talk to you." So now and their budget for the music was $10,000. All right, so I've got 8 songs or 9 songs, and I got to work within this budget, or I got to cut the music.
Sub it.
Yeah. Okay. So, and that it's hard because every song that you get to go along with your concept asks for what's called a favored nation status. So you can't do another song, pay them higher, or later on, because you're going to have to pay all the other people the same thing. So I'm just suggesting to you, when you do your movies and you think that you're going to get away with certain music, you can't. And because a distributor will not distribute. The other thing that will turn a distributor off is if you can't get errors and omission insurance. Why would they take a risk? Why would they? But if it's a big enough distributor, they have their own E&O, errors and omission policy, and they'll hook you into theirs and charge it as an additional expense in the budget.
I'll just say on that music note, this literally just happened to us. A movie came to us, and it was called Gutterbug, and we're repping it now. But they had 3 songs that were punk band songs, and one was by Modest Mouse, who had the biggest following, and the other 2 had Favored Nations, exact same thing, and they each wanted $10,000. And so they're putting a $30,000 obstacle before we even could sell the movie, And so I said no. I turned it down. I didn't want to do it, and because I had no stars and it was like a train spotting, so I wasn't quite sure I was going to sell. And so I said, sub all 3. Just get different. And then we came to an agreement. They subbed 2 of the 3, and we just bought the Modest Mouse song for $10,000. But so then that's a $10,000 we have to put in. So again, if you're setting up an obstacle, coming to me with the film, that's tough.
And then one of the deliverables is title insurance, title search, because you want to make sure.
That's easy to
Well, but it depends. So you got to make sure that your title to your movie clears a global or domestic search. And if there are pings that go on there, then you got to find out what were or not the commonalities or lack of, you know. So there's a lot that you have to think about. Distribution. Now, the question that I'm going to pose to both of you: when you're wearing your distribution hats, whether it's domestic or whether it's international, would you, for a fee, being paid to either of you, do consulting during the development phase of a project that you are thinking of going forward on?
Would I consult when a project's in development?
Yeah.
The script development or
No. After the script, when they're building their team and they have a budget in the
see.
development
Yeah.
phase
Yeah.
to get people attached, would
I
you?
mean, I've never been really approached to do that, but you know, I'd be open to it, and I think there's mistakes that can be made that if you're not experienced enough, and I think Corky's speaking to some of them. So yeah, it's you know, I think a good attorney is a good idea to have an attorney on early. If you have a production attorney with experience in distribution deals, that's probably a really valuable asset. For title insurance, I feel like a good line producer should know to set to you know, going in pre-production, you should be working on title insurance.
Just to add to that real quick, consulting, yes, I do know two people that do it. If that's what you're looking for, years ago I did consulting on films, and then it's just got too busy and big.
Especially if you're doing television.
Yeah, because
they need to know where the cuts are in the script.
Well, no, I'm not even talking about that. Like on the films, like Michelle, who does my international sales, does consulting on the side. I have no problem with her doing that, but because the movie might end up in our pocket eventually, doesn't have to. But the key is things like there's so much experience. People like you and I could give like casting and you know, locations and incentives and things like that they may not know. And like, to me, that's if you're hiring them, as long as they're not charging you, by the way, some ridiculous fee. You know, if they're charging you $50,000, oh my God, run and hide. But if they're charging you like a Corky type fee, like an hourly rate, that sounds great. You know what I mean? Because then if you're not getting the value, then you don't pay.
So I put in my development budget, just so you know, $10,000. And I have a couple of the distributors who will consult and for $10,000, and they'll help you in the various ways that you're talking about. There's a question back there. Is there?
Just on this topic of how to find the right partner, I wonder if you fellows can talk a little bit about genres and whether or not you have specific genres of movies that you talk about, or whether or not you know how someone who's looking for a distributor defines their practice in sort of a genre basis. So I just want to know, in terms of finding a partner, this concept of genres.
I'll say that I can tell you exactly what sells, like what we look at. It's like, if cast, that's the first thing is cast, you know what I mean? And that, by the way, that's another thing that, you know, like Michelle is always saying to people that she's working with is like, why, you know, there's people. Give you an example. I'll tell you that there was a movie that a friend of that she knew was going to make like $100,000 budget or something like that, and he was just going to put it all on the screen. And she said, allocate $10,000. Let's get a star for one day to come down. And she called some buyers who's worth, and they got Denise Richards in the movie, you know, and she's all over the poster and everything. And it's a movie they put out. It's like now you're in a different ballgame. You know, not that she's be all end all, but it's like a recognizable face. Cast is always it because the buyers are going to be asking us, cast, you know, who's in it. So then the second is genre, action, horror, you know, because they don't need as much cast. And then the third that we have success with is family or comedies that are completely vanilla. Like vanilla, not offensive, no drugs, sex, dropping F-bombs, you know, that kind of thing. So the hardest to sell for us is the no-name dramas. Oh, my God, especially if they're edgy, it is very, very, very tough to sell. Or comedies, if they're crazy doing drugs and nuts, edgy, very tough to sell. So it's like you're coming in tough, you know.
Well, you have been able to sell a film like Hangover?
Oh, well, exactly like Hangover, but yes, of course, because that's a cast.
but
you know
that's
what I mean?
great. Well,
Yeah, that's a
but-
huge
but-
cast. But without the cast,
Yeah.
if it's that funny, I'd say you could sell it. You know what I mean? But there's certain places that wouldn't have bought it. You know, on an independent level, you wouldn't have been able to sell the Middle East or China or whatever. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I think sadly because I like dramas, you know, I really like a good movie with integrity that says something. But sadly, even if you're in South by Southwest, Sundance, Tribeca, if you have a drama without cast that a programmer fell in love with, you're still looking at like speaking domestic. You might be looking at a rev share, which means no advance, no MG.
Okay,
So
but if your movie has an actor named Steve Buscemi,
Yeah,
no
that's-
matter how
that's a
bad it
different
is,
animal.
it's a Sundance movie because Sundance loves Steve Buscemi.
yeah.
You
Well,
know?
get Steve Buscemi. That's good advice for everyone. Just get Steve Buscemi.
Everybody here.
Yeah,
At
just
least
get
once
Steve
in your
Buscemi.
life.
Yeah,
Hey, wait,
yeah.
wait, here.
My question, which is, kind of relevant when you're in the Midwest or South in the United States, is regarding Christian film or faith-based film. Let's just say faith-based film. That's becoming much more popular. It's becoming something that goes into service where it used to just go to different cafeterias and church halls. There are now films like God Is Not Dead or One Nation Under God, Kevin Sorbo, Roma Downey, which are actually getting play in theaters. Right now, there's only, between the Kendrick brothers and a few other, just a tiny amount of people who do the distribution on that. So they've cornered that market. My question is that something that you see going mainstream?
So yeah, if we were, we would do a theatrical on one if we felt that it was right. In fact, we were actively looking for that. But if you're making them, I just heard this from a buyer the other day. Like, unless you're an actual Christian, like if somebody's just making it just because like this is the genre that works, it ain't gonna work. And you need a champion to kind of get behind it in that regard. And there's all these boxes you have to check. And usually the movies are not that good. If you've seen them, you watch it, it's like, ay, fireproof, God's not dead, but they make a lot of money.
Wait, before you come, I'll tell you a very funny story. At the Franklin International Film Festival, not this year, but the year before, I saw a faith-based movie called One Nation Under God. And I went up to the director and said to her, you did a fabulous job with introducing faith, but not throwing faith into your face, not making it a true faith. And then on the Q&A, on the stand, she had a guy who was wearing a Jesus Saves t-shirt. So it said to her at the end, you got to dish that guy. It ruined the whole movie for me because I just congratulated you, and now you have a guy on the stage that says Jesus Saves. It turned it into a whole faith thing, but
he does save. He doesn't spend.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
much more of a
But
saver.
so you have to think of those. It's a fine line.
Yeah, I mean, faith-based, I can't really speak to it because I don't do it, but I know it can be lucrative if you get it to the right distributor. And you can see that because they're making studio films now that cater to that audience. And, I think just Corky before in the last panel was talking about he doesn't want to get into politics, but with what's going on with how polarized people are, I think there's a whole audience that's underserved that faith-based films could really speak to. A couple other things that question reminded me of. There's a couple other niche audiences, LGBT, and on the other side of faith, there's a big Jewish audience. There's some distributors that have recently told me they're looking for films that serve, especially in independent film. There's a big Jewish. There's a lot of old Jews who like to go to indie movies. So there's a couple big theaters. So that's one. I feel like there might be another one I'm not thinking of, but there's a couple niches out there that if you don't have a star and you make it the film for a very low number, you might, and if it's smart enough to get into a festival, you might be able to get a nice distributor aboard, not necessarily a big MG, but it could, begin the process of becoming a viable film, festival filmmaker.
At the 315, Rob Dees, who's my head of worldwide sales, produced the movie Soul Surfer. If you ever saw that movie with the girl, the surfer that got the arm bit off by the shark, and that hit the faith-based market perfect. I mean, they made $40 million or so in U.S. alone. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. We have to cut this panel short because we're running over. Thank you both.
Sure.
I am proud. I'm thrilled to have met you, and I'm proud to know you. So thank you.